Hi, happy Thursday. Hope everybody's doing well. It was fun to see many of you at the Zoom meeting this week. Yes, that was a lot of fun, and hopefully some will be there today. Let's continue on with our story. Let's see what happens to these four little kiddos. This is chapter 6. At last, it was dinner time. And the children sat down to see what Henry had in his bundles. Remember, he had brought them from the town. I brought another loaf of brown bread at the store, said Henry, and some more milk. I bought some dried meat because we can eat it in our hands, and I bought a bone for Watch. Watch looked hungry at the bone, and he lay down at once to eat it. Jessie got out the 4 cups and a bowl and put some milk into each one. Then the children put little pieces of brown bread and began to eat it with their new spoons. What fun, cried Jessie, eating with spoons. Now tell us what you did in town, Henry. Henry began. The town below this hill is Silver City. I saw the name on a sign. I went into the town and I walked along the first street I came to. It was a nice street with big houses and flowers and trees. I saw a man out cutting his grass. He's a good man too. I can tell you, a doctor. Did you work for him? Asked Jessie. Yes, said Henry. He was very hot, and just as I came to the house, his bell rang. And he started to the house, and I called after him, and I asked him if I could cut his grass, and he said, yes, yes, I wish you would. You see, he wasn't used to cutting it himself. So I cut the grass, and he said, good for you. Do you want to work every day? And he said he had never had a boy who cut it as well as I did. Oh, Henry, cried Violet and Jessie. I told him I did want to work, and he told me to come back this afternoon. There's kind of a picture of him. Oops, let's see, cut it back here. Cutting grass. Just, they call that a silhouette kind of thing where you don't see the whole picture, just the outline. Okay. He had a pretty house and a garage and a big vegetable garden, and he had a lot of cherry trees behind his house. A cherry orchard. You should see the beautiful big red cherries. Well, when I was cutting the grass near the kitchen, the cook came into the kitchen door and watched me. She's big and fat, Henry laughed. She asked me if I'd like a cookie, and I said I did, and she gave me one. What did you do with it? Asked Benny hungrily. Well, when she went back into the kitchen, I put it in my pocket, said Henry, laughing. Did she see you? Asked Jessie. No, said Henry. I played I was eating it for a long time. I carefully ate away at nothing at all. Benny began to look at Henry's pocket. It did look very funny. Henry went on. When I came home, the doctor gave me $1, and the cook gave me this bag. Henry laughed at Benny and pulled the bag out of his pocket. In it were 10 delicious brown cookies. Oh, cried Benny. Please, Jessie, let's have cookies for dinner. Then Henry opened his last bundle. I thought we ought to have a tablecloth, he said. So I got this one at the store, but it wasn't hemmed. Violet begged, oh, let me hem it. She took her scissors out of her work bag and cut the 2 edges evenly. But before she began to hem the pretty blue tablecloth, she helped Jessie wash and rinse the dishes and put them away. Benny helped too. When Henry said goodbye and he went back to town, all the children were working happily. Remember, he came home at noon. So noon is like lunchtime. Yeah. So he went back to work for the day. Watch was trying to make a hole with one paw to bury his bone in. I'll help you bury your bone, Watch, said Benny. Oh, no, Benny, said Jessie. Watch wants to bury the bone by himself. You come and help me. I'm going to make a broom for the house. For a little while, Benny ran around finding sticks for the broom, but he soon went to sleep on the ground with Watch for a pillow. The 2 girls sat by the brook. Violet was hemming the blue tablecloth, and Jessie was making the broom with a long stick for a handle. When Henry came back at supper time, the broom with its long handle stood in the kitchen, and the new tablecloth were hemmed. Henry admired the broom and the tablecloth. Then she gave Jessie a small bundle. Oh, butter, cried Jessie. Her eyes were shining. It was butter, yellow and sweet. The four children had not had butter for many days. At last they sat down in their fine supper. Now this spoon is a magic spoon, said Henry. Turn it around and use the handle, and it becomes a knife. He showed Benny how to put the butter on his brown bread with his magic knife. With dried bread, meat, bread and butter, milk and cookies, the children could not ask for a better supper. What did you do this afternoon, Henry? Asked Jessie. Well, I washed the doctor's car, said Henry. Then I washed the walks and the windows. Tomorrow I'm going to work in the garden. Then he looked at the brook. Oh, how I'd love to have a swim in a nice cool water. Henry was hot and sticky as he looked at the waterfall. Maybe we could make a swimming pool, he said. We could build a dam out of logs. Oh, yeah, yes, we could, said Jessie. Violet, I know where to find some logs and some flat stones. You do? Said Henry. Yes, said Jessie. They're not far away, and just a little way below the pool now, with sand all around it, but it's not big enough to swim in. Is that so? Cried Henry. Someday I'll stay at home and we'll try to dam up the brook and make a swimming pool. You can have my wheels, said Benny. Good, replied Henry. I'll make you a little cart with the wheels, Benny, and you can carry stones on it. Yes, said Benny, that will be good. Come now, let's go to bed, said Jessie. The children were all glad to go to bed. They stood on the stump and climbed into their new house. They all went to sleep but Henry. He was thinking about the new swimming pool. All at once, he saw that Watch was not asleep. Henry patted the dog and said, Lie down, Watch. But Watch did not lie down. He began to growl softly. Shh, said Henry to the dog. He sat up. Jessie sat up. What is it, Henry? She whispered. I don't know, replied Henry. He was frightened. I think Watch hears something in the woods. Let's close the door, said Jessie. I'm afraid. The two children closed the heavy door softly. Then they sat still and listened, but they did not hear anything. Lie down, Watch, said Jessie again. Go to sleep. But Watch did not go to sleep. He growled again. Maybe somebody's in the woods. Maybe somebody wants to hide in this car, whispered Jessie. Maybe, said Henry. There is something out there and the dog doesn't like. Then they heard a stick crack and Watch barked. Oh, shh. Jessie put her hand over the mouth. If there's someone in the woods, he knows that there is a dog in the boxcar, said Henry. He took the new broom in his hand and he waited, but nothing came, nothing at all. The two children waited and waited. Violet and Benny slept through it all. I'm going to open the door now, said Henry. They opened the door softly and then they listened. The dog sniffed a little, then he turned around 3 times, laid down. He put his head on his paw. It must be all right now, said Henry. Watch knows. Maybe it was just a rabbit. So at last they all went to sleep and slept until morning. That's the end of chapter 6. Have you ever been afraid of something? What made you afraid? Sometimes we're afraid of maybe even being in dark places or being by ourselves. I remember being afraid, really afraid one time when my little 2-year-old got lost. We were at a water park, Raging Waters, and I could not find, maybe he was 3, but he was little, and it was so scary. Sometimes we get scared, sometimes we get afraid, huh? Today's journal write, tell me about a time that you were afraid. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.